Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about something a little different. Fiction. Star Wars, namely. Oh, well, if you don't believe in spirituality, then you can say everything I talk about is fiction. But Star Wars is what I'm going to talk about right now. And I believe that certain works of fiction, be they universes of lore, particular books, or just storytelling by mouth, a lot of these things that even aren't about gods or spirits or anything like that are actually influenced by an understanding of gods and spirits and consciousness in general. Sometimes the magnitude of consciousness that one finds himself in isn't understood, and sometimes it inspires one to create works of fiction highly influenced by the consciousness that one finds himself in or is forced upon him, maybe. Maybe George Lucas had some higher consciousness force on him. I do not know, and I do not know how much realization he possesses, what level. But I will say that the vast universe of Star Wars, it seems very spiritually motivated as far as ideology goes. The Sith, the dark side, they have their own philosophy. They're kind of like the left-hand path, obtaining power. Through passion, attain power, and so on and so forth with Sith code. I don't have it memorized, but and then they believe that freedom is achieved through power, and the light side, whereas there's only harmony, there is no passion or anything like that, and that's a little. It seems like a caveat in the Star Wars universe, like really, there's just harmony. There's nothing else, and the Sith seem to point out, yeah, that's not the case, obviously, because of the conflict between us. But when you look at the grander picture, everything is where it's supposed to be. In most spiritual systems and in most religions, everything happens as it should happen. And whether we notice it on this tiny level we're on, this down to earth level we're on, even as sentient beings, whether we notice if there is harmony or not, universally it exists. There is a functionary system that continues to perpetuate itself, certainly through a Big Bang and through the end of the universe, and perhaps more Big Bangs. Hindus believe there's a whole bunch of Big Bangs, and I do agree, and that there will be many more until we all reach God. But back to Star Wars, it has a feeling of duality, and I don't really subscribe to duality in its purest sense, and I usually don't like the idea of duality, good, evil. This is bad. You're either bad or you're good, and I usually don't subscribe to that. But in Star Wars, there's a lot of mixed personality traits in the characters. Kylo Ren is constantly called back to the light in The Force Awakens, and he even talks to Vader's helmet and asks him to save him from being called back to the light. Palpatine in one of the Star Wars books, I think it's the Book of the Sith, he says, I was almost consumed by the light, and he's a dark side user. Little things like that, little character developments that show that everything isn't cut and dry. And, there's gray Jedi, and then there's a whole lot of, there's light Sith, and there's a lot of people in between and pulled in different directions. Mace Windu uses kind of both the dark side and the light side, even though he's a Jedi. Anyway, I could go on and on because I'm really into Star Wars lore, but I believe that a higher consciousness is inspiring Star Wars in general. And, there's a lot of elements where it's like just frivolous crap. Jar Jar Binks frivolous. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with that. Even if I would have liked to see him become a Sith Lord. That would have been very interesting. Somebody might have tried to kill George Lucas, though. They might try to assassinate him or something like that. But what I'm getting at is that there's a whole bunch of different kinds of fiction where people use something like the Force. Where people use magic and people acknowledge the two different halves of magic or the Force or whatever you want to call it. And that there are certain practices on either side. And there's certain practices and beliefs that are kind of more towards the middle. And I like to see a lot of middle ground in fiction because middle ground is really an explanation of what we are as humans. There's a whole lot of middle ground here. And Star Wars has a lot of middle ground. And this force, this magic that stated in other fiction. It has an existence in every single person to a certain level, and it has underlying connection to reality, and it's basically part of the foundation of reality. These ideas of force, magic, what have you, and there are truths of the string theory connected to these things. Now, the string theory hasn't been developed fully; it's just kind of in its infancy, but it's kind of like the, how do I say this in very simple terms? Because honestly, I don't understand it, but simply, reality can be smaller than the atomic. It can be smaller than subatomic even. It can be, when it becomes to the level of the fabric of time, the fabric of space, the fabric of forces of relation between bodies and speed. When you get down to the very nitty gritty, the things even underlying atoms, of course, but just the tiniest fragments of reality, it becomes not so much a solid, or even by most understandings of it, energetic principle. It becomes like a shifting time reality in a way. For instance, let me give an example. Electrons, when scientists look at them through super microscopes, they can track electrons somehow. I don't really know how. Certain electrons, well, all electrons, seem to appear in multiple places at once, then they phase out of existence, and then they come back in different places. And this has baffled scientists for a long time, well, ever since it was discovered. And where do the questions are, where do they go? How can they appear in multiple places at once? And do they really exist if they blink in and out? And I don't know how they know it's the same electrons, but it kind of goes, the string theory kind of taps into that. I'm oversimplifying this, and I'm getting a lot of it wrong, probably. But I'm just kind of thinking on this. This is kind of a thinking video. It's not an explanation video, so don't take it that way. But when you get down to the fabric of reality, it's not solid, and it doesn't produce energy that we can feel, that puts off something that we can interact with. And once you get down to that level, the strings of reality, if you will, we realize that everything is really composed of multiple forces acting in many different ways, and forces that we can't even see with our limited senses. Forces that aren't solid to us, that make up solidity but aren't solid, that make up energy but don't seem to be energetic in how if they put off heat or they put off light. Reality gets very confusing once you get down to the nitty-gritty, and a lot of it's very close to how magic and the Force in Star Wars operates. And a lot of these realizations, even in fiction, only come about, well, some of them only come about like right before we learn something or right after. And it seems to tap into the united consciousness of humanity, to where we kind of show a trend if somebody was observing us. We kind of show a trend of believing certain things at different times and learning certain things at different times. For instance, Darwin's theory of evolution. A guy on the other side of the world, I think it was in Germany, he was writing almost the exact same thing as Darwin, and he was about 5 months behind when Darwin published it. His theories on evolution, I completely forget the book name, stupid of me, because I've known it for quite a while. But these types of consciousnesses, even when it comes down to war and battle, people behaving in certain ways all around the globe that have no contact with each other, desiring to conquer each other. And then the next era, more people want to participate in agriculture, want to grow things. There's this force behind even the human psyche, but behind our movements, behind our actions, that seems to unite us even if we have no communication with each other. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. The Star Wars thing, I'll probably put that in the video title, but I kind of got off topic. But, I mean, what do you think? What are some works of fiction that you think really get at the heart of consciousness or reality or magic or science or philosophy or whatever you think, whatever you focus on a lot of time when you're reading fiction or watching fiction or whatever. I'd love to hear what y'all think. And thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this at all, like it. If you fucking loved it, subscribe. But thank you very much for watching.